Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Well, I went on my walk this morning and I made a video. I thought it was a pretty good one, and I just got back to edit it and get it posted, and it's not there. I'm a little upset with myself this morning. I don't know what I did, but it was a mistake. So we'll try to recreate that video for you. Just to give you some updates, because everyone's probably, or at least a lot of you are focusing on it. Nancy Pelosi has left the building. She's gone to South Korea, continuing her journey. Apparently everything is safe and sound right now, and a lot of you are thinking that maybe this was all for nothing, and it could be. You may be right. But I think we're going to see at least something happen. I think there's going to be some either retaliation, or we're just going to notice that things are changing differently, and there's been a change of things. So don't give up, and don't let down your guard so quickly just yet, because I think that there's still some time for things to happen. In fact, the Chinese have said, just wait and see. That was one of the top officials yesterday, was asked, are you going to do anything? You're going to follow through with these threats? And he said, just wait and see. I think there's still an opportunity for bad things to happen. There's just been too much drama over that whole deal. Today, though, I want to talk to you about how prepared are you to deal with civil unrest, protests, violence, food protests, people, panic buying and that sort of thing. This is something that's starting to happen more and more often, especially around the world. We're seeing numerous countries have various levels of violence and protest going on. South Africa is one of the more recent ones. Ecuador, Argentina, Panama, of course Sri Lanka, you all know about that one. All over Europe, the Netherlands, Poland, Germany, Italy, and several other places are already showing signs of strain to their society because of what's going on. And in virtually every one of these cases, it's because of something to do with the Great Reset. Food shortages, fuel shortages, inflation costs, restrictions on farming, and so on and so forth. This is happening more often. The possibility of this happening where you are, I think, is ever increasing. Even if you live out like we do. I know that you're thinking, well, that's never going to happen here. That's not exactly true. Never say never. But unless you are never going out to off your property, you never go to town, you never go to the grocery store, or whatever you do, your job, then you should be planning. If you never do those things, then man, you're way ahead of me. But most of us, even if we live out like this, we still have to leave our property and go do business wherever it is. And at some point in time, we're going to start seeing the types of problems that's been seen in other countries here in the United States. I mean, we've already seen it in the past, in the recent past with the BLM riots. And personally, I think those BLM riots were just a beginning and a start, and a small portion of what we might yet see as things continue. And so that's why we need to have a preparedness plan for this. What is your plan when this kind of stuff goes on? Do you have a plan on certain triggers that would trigger your plan into active mode to start doing the things that you've planned to do? Are you going to wait till it's too late, till they're flipping cars over and throwing torches into buildings and looting and all that kind of stuff? Or do you have a plan that when things start to hit a certain point, that's when your actions, you go into action? That is something that you should definitely have. Having plans on what you're going to do. Are you going to bug out? I mean, is that your plan? Well, then you need to make sure that you're going to bug out at the right time. If you're bugging out when it's all going down, you've waited too late. You need to do it ahead of time, when things just first start to happen. When you start hearing about people down on Main Street or at the local bank or at the local police station or city hall, and they're starting to do stuff and gather, that would be a good time to start putting your plan into action. If your plan is to bug in, well, then you definitely need to have a rock solid plan on that. Not just that you can survive on the inside where you have enough food and water and things like that, but do you have the ability to barricade your home if bugging in is your plan? Do you have a defense plan for the perimeter of your home? Do you have a plan on how to get home? If things start happening, I mean, you may go to work and things are fine, and by that afternoon, it all starts to explode. And so do you have a plan to get home when the route that you take may be filled with people blocking interstates or whatever they're doing? These are things that you need to have now. You need to be working on that. Like I said, the possibility that America gets to that point is a very good one, because we've been to that point several times in our past. And as all of this is just growing, and the tensions with just the average person, they're just getting sick and tired of it. And they're on edge, and things are getting more expensive. They can't afford to live. And as that continues to grow, we're going to start seeing problems. We've already seen, obviously, the increase in prices of food and fuel. We are seeing real shortages. I was reading just a couple of days ago that the baby formula shortage is actually worse than what it was. You know, we haven't heard too much about it. It's kind of, you know, everyone's forgotten about that problem. But a few months ago they were saying there was a 50% shortage, and now they're saying it's up to 70%. That it's getting worse with all the stuff that they claim that they've done. This kind of problem could easily spill over into other areas, and we are seeing it. And then now what's going on with China, the very real possibility that they could overtly or under, cover, do something to harm our supply chain is very real. They've already started to put some type of sanctions on Taiwan by restricting the exporting of goods into Taiwan that's coming from China. We could see that happen here in the United States also. So what is your plan? Well, there's just some things that you can do. Number one, you need to have an evac plan and an alternative route plan to wherever you go on a regular basis. If there's a particular store that you go to for your groceries, you need to know multiple ways to get there and to get home. And you need to practice those routes on occasion so that you know, is it going through a neighborhood? Are there certain points in that route that someone could ambush you? So you need to have that down. The same way with work. You need to have alternative routes to how to get home from work. And you need to go over those with your spouse so that they know which way you might be coming home differently if things are getting bad. Same way with your kids in school or other places that you normally frequent, church, places like that. How are you going to get home? And you need to share those with your family so that they know. It would be a good idea to have particular stopping points designated along the way, so that if you have to stop, that's a point that you're going to try to get to if you need to stop and kind of hide out. And if you or your family comes to get you, they can look in that place because that's a designated spot. At your home, of course, you need to be ready to bug in, if that's your plan. And that means you need to have enough food and enough water and heat, and ways to cook your food, and ways to deal with your waste, all that kind of stuff if your plan is to hunker down. And this kind of stuff can last for several weeks. We're not talking just doing this for a few days. There are places that's been doing this for weeks now. I mean, look at the Summer of Love with BLM. That lasted all summer. So you may be in there for a while, especially if all this stuff is just happening in your area. A good idea to do is to already have barricades ready. So like plywood or OSB to put over your windows. Go ahead and get that stuff bought and get it cut and get the hardware, the screws and everything to mount it ready to go. You can store it in your garage, in closets, behind your couch, whatever it is, and have that already ready so that, if things get really bad, you can put that up on your windows to help barricade your house. These are some of the plans that you need to work on. Another one is get home bags. Do you have some type of emergency kit that you can use if you need to get home? Does it have adequate first aid for emergency trauma? Do you have water? Maybe you need to walk. Maybe they're blocking the interstates, or maybe there's debris and stuff that prevents you from taking the route that the only way that you can get home. and you may have to start walking on foot. So do you have you know, a kit, a get home bag that has some water, a few survival items, a little food for energy, change of socks, you know, medical trauma kit, that sort of thing that stays in your vehicle at all times, and you don't dip into it and use it. That's the problem. I've done that in the past, you know. I'm out somewhere or I'm at the house and I need a particular tool or I need something and it's convenient, it's right there in the vehicle, and I just take it out and then I forget to put it back. So whatever you have as a get home bag that stays in your vehicle, don't touch that until it's absolutely necessary to use it. These are some of the things that we need to be planning, folks, because the possibility of this kind of stuff happening here at the home front in your area is becoming ever increasing. If you live in a city, especially a larger city, you should absolutely be planning for this. If you live in the suburban area out on the outskirts of town, you should still be planning for it, because I'd say you've probably got at least a 50% chance of things like that happening. Maybe not exactly in your neighborhood, but very possibly in the routes that you travel to go to work or to do business. Out here in the country, it may not come to you, but then what are you going to do if you can't get to town? What do you do if you can't go to the places that you need to, or if you have to travel through areas that are experiencing this civil unrest? These are things you need to be planning, because as the world turns, we're going to start seeing this kind of stuff. I'm surprised that we haven't had already, because we can't look and say, well, the reason the rest of the world is doing this is because they're unstable and we're much more stable. How much more stable of a nation can you get than the Netherlands? I mean, I would peg almost any country having some instability over the Netherlands. I mean, unless I'm wrong, they've always been considered a pretty stable nation. And there's videos out there where police are trying to break up the crowds, the protests, protesting these great reset, zero carbon rules. And the people are actually fighting back and causing the police to take off running because there's so many of them. So if that's happening over there, it most definitely can happen here. America is becoming more divided than it's ever been. People at this point hate each other just because they're different than themselves. If they have any kind of different view, belief, political, religion, anything, they just hate them. And because of that and the growing problems that are happening, it is just it's a tinderbox ready to blow in a lot of ways, and especially a lot of areas. So you need to have your preparedness plan pretty rock solid on this one. Regardless of who you are and what your experience is, being ready for civil unrest, for protests, how to get home, how to secure your home, or how to get out of that home are definitely things on your preparedness to-do list. So folks, get your houses in order. This is the real deal. This stuff is happening. I mean, it's happening all around us, and we can't sit idly by any longer and think that, well, if it gets any worse, you know, I'll do something. I mean, if you're watching what's happening, if you're hearing this stuff in the news, and you still aren't convinced that the whole world is starting to crumble around us, you should probably go have that checked out. Like, go see a coroner or something, because something's wrong with you if you see everything happening and think that nothing's going on. Folks, get your houses in order. Prepare mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.